What's good? It's Woog. Tennis, one of the prettiest sounding bands in this past decade of indie, is about to drop their fifth album, Swimmer. This will also be their second self-produced album. Tennis is a husband and wife duo from Denver, Colorado, and I remember hearing their debut, Cape Dory, in 2011 and thinking, damn, this girl sounds like she's really singing to someone specific about this whole sailing escapade. And she keeps referencing this trip in these songs. She sounds so excited too, like she's having a real blast and is just basking in the adventure. She sounds in love. Come to find out that this debut album, Cape Dory, was written during an 8-month sailing voyage down the eastern Atlantic seaboard after they graduated from the University of Colorado. The album actually documents much of the trip and on her feelings throughout it. It didn't take long at all for me to love this album, especially the first half of it. It's a perfect summertime type of album, something to drive along the coastline to or to play on a road trip, especially with a loved one. Since Cape Dory, they've released 3 more albums, Young and Old, Ritual and Repeat, and Yours Conditionally in 2012, 2014, and 2017. Young and Old didn't sound too different from Cape Dory, minus the direct referencing to that sailing expedition. Ritual and Repeat, however, is probably their best album. They turned the corner and went into this vintage dance pop style of songwriting and production that just went perfectly with frontwoman Elena Moore's voice. This album's songs are so smooth and catchy, carrying a pop and even a disco-like vibe. They found such a groove here, and it was different from the one they'd found on that Cape Dory debut. 3 years then went by between that album and their fourth, Yours Conditionally, which was cool, but probably the least memorable of the 4 albums, for me. And this album was actually written during another sailing trip. This one, a 4-month journey from San Diego, California to Cabo in the Sea of Cortez, down around the Pacific side of Mexico. Well, I didn't hear that same delighted and excited vibe throughout this album. It wasn't as full of wonder. Not saying that Elena and Patrick didn't have a phenomenal time on this vacation. I'm just saying that the music that resulted from the trip didn't give me the same feelies that Cape Dory did. This might have also been a product of the album being self-produced, whereas their prior 2 were produced by Richard Swift and Patrick Carney of the Black Keys. Not only was Yours Conditionally, that 4th album, self-produced, but it was self-released on their own label, Mutually Detrimental. Their past albums were released on Fat Possum and Communion. Fat Possum, a pretty reputable indie label. I think that Tennis has kind of hit a plateau in terms of popularity and notoriety. They're a moderately recognizable, just higher than mid-tier band in that dream pop, indie pop realm. Their albums get pretty good reviews from the publications, though I think they could be a little better. Metacritic, which aggregates every review score, giving you an average score or a Metacritic ranking, has the Tennis albums usually landing between 75 and 77. Not hugely acclaimed, but pretty appreciated. Those are fairly good scores. 80's that threshold where if you're 80 and above, you're solid. In fact, the Roots drummer and Jimmy Fallon drummer, Questlove of the Roots, said in the interview something to the effect of him not really tripping about the money so much anymore or the fame, that right now he's happy just getting an 80 or better on Metacritic. So Tennis is a pretty popular indie band. They aren't a Coachella headliner or a name that you'll see appear in the 2nd and 3rd line of the lineup from the top. They're more like 4 or 5 lines down on the major festivals and maybe the top 3 line for the smaller festivals. Here in Long Beach, they had a festival last year, Just Like Heaven, and even on that one, Tennis was on the bottom line, but you had bands like Yeah Yeah Yeahs, Phoenix, MGMT, Beach House, She Wants Revenge, Mike Snow, Neon Indian, Washed Out. I would have at least expected Tennis to be a couple lines up, but I mean, what? But I'm really looking forward to this 5th album, Swimming, like I am all Tennis albums. Even though with their first 2 albums, I was still kind of catching up on who this Tennis band was. I was just seeing that they were getting good reviews. They had a really interesting album cover on that first album. I'm like, what is this? It looked just kind of vintage and very 80s. I like the 3 songs that Tennis has released, presumably from this album: Runner, Need Your Love, and How to Forgive. Runner is more synth poppy, whereas How to Forgive sounds more like classic Tennis. Need Your Love is neither. The beat is different and heavier during the verse until the chorus comes in and then the vibe smooths out. Interesting song. So we might get a real mixed bag with this album. I just love the pocket of sound that this band resides in. They've carved out their own little fusion of indie pop, dream pop, surf rock, and sometimes synth pop or disco pop, and I'm here for all of it. I like their musicianship, their sound, and Elena Moore's adorable voice. It's higher pitched, melodic, delicate, with a slight vibrato, just cute as hell. And this songbird fits so well with the surrounding instrumentals. But let me know if you've heard Tennis and what you think of their music. And to Tennis fans out there, what is your favorite Tennis album? Like always, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.